Hello, everyone. As Lauren says, it's been a while, so I'm looking forward to connecting with you all today. And if you have questions, Lauren will field them if you put them in the chat, and he'll be able to decide whether it's something that needs to get saved till later or it can be handled in the moment. So he's going to keep his eye on that for me. And in the meantime, we will just go until somebody has a question. So, the idea for this particular course came out of a period of time for me when I had been teaching a number of mentorships, a couple live, couple or one online with Healthy Seminar. And one of the things that was happening over and over again with students is students were not struggling with the information in terms of what the Renmai does or what the Changmai does, but they were struggling with how and when to apply these vessels appropriately, because they're such a powerful system. You don't use them, generally speaking, for acute self-limiting kinds of conditions. So this course came out of this idea of trying to figure out how to give you structure or framework for recognizing when it is important to use the 8 extraordinary vessels versus the postnatal system, all the other channels. So that's basically what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about when when these vessels are relevant in terms of your therapeutic influence, and when they might be too much for a patient or they might not be appropriate for a patient. So that's what we're going to do for the next couple of hours. So we start first with this idea of curriculum. The Taoists talk about this a lot, that they have this understanding that we choose to incarnate in a body, in this meat sack, this meat skeleton that we've got, in order to pursue some specific curriculum. We come here to learn something. Or if you believe in reincarnation, we come for the opportunity to refine or clear karma. Either way, this is all a learning process. We come here because something in us wants to expand our awareness of self and the world around us in a way that we become better human beings. When we do that, when we make this choice to incarnate, our spirit, our psyche, our Shen, is really subject to the realities of that particular physical incarnation, right? You're in a body now. You're not a spirit on its own. You're a spirit that's inhabiting a system, and that system has certain parameters that we have to live by if we're going to live in a body. And once we recognize these parameters, then we can begin to make the most out of the opportunity of that incarnation. So what do I mean by those parameters? I'm talking basic stuff. I'm talking the idea that the minute you incarnate in a body, you are subject to polarity, the relationship between yin and yang. One, in a sense, spirit is unity, it's oneness, it's all potential. But the minute you're in a body, you now have to negotiate yin and yang. You have to negotiate the laws of physics, like gravity. Right? You have to recognize certain things that come with incarnating in a body. And once you do that, once you accept the reality of being in a body, then you can begin to make the most out of the body that you have, to make the most out of your beingness. And so we do this. I think this was perhaps the first question on the worksheet. We do this in one of 3 ways. The first thing we do is we try to engage the observer, which means there is a part of us that can actually step outside of the experience that we're having and see ourselves in it. And until we can actually see ourselves in it, it is very difficult to make the most out of an experience. The second thing we can do is to try to embrace our original nature as much as is possible. If you've lived a life and you're an adult now, you're over the age of 40 or 50 or whatever age you are, if you've lived long enough, you have learned how to remove yourself from that original nature in order to survive, in order to function, in order to be accepted in some way or another. So it is not really uncommon to get to a certain age in your life, perhaps around the time we think of midlife crises, and recognize that you have forgotten who you are, that you don't really have a sense of the true nature of your beingness. And so if we want to make the most of our curriculum, we have to remember that. And then the third thing we have to do is become more aware. We have to engage in mindfulness. We have to increase our level of interoception. We have to be more aware than we currently are. Carl Jung talks about the nature of life, not from a Taoist point of view, although there are many overlaps between the Taoist perspective and Carl Jung's theories. But Jung believed that life is a mythic journey, and that this mythic journey is sort of guided by some universal essences, some natural things that are universal to everybody. So although each person is unique, each person has their own curriculum, each person has a different culture or a belief system that they grew up in, what happens in our growth and development as a human being is universal. It's archetypal. It moves across culture. It moves across religion. We all want to be loved. We all want to feel safe, right? So when we think about this archetypal nature, really what we're talking about is a universal or recurring pattern or symbol or character type that is true across cultures, across stories. We see stories that have come through many generations in different cultures that all have the same idea behind them, the same truth behind them, the same expression of what it is to be human behind them. And in that sense, we can say that this is true even if we're not talking about Chinese medicine. This is true if we're talking about psychology. This is true if we're talking about philosophy. This is true regardless of your understanding of Chinese medicine. But if you do understand Chinese medicine as an archetypal expression of this mythic journey, then the 8 extras in particular, which are very archetypal, can become a blueprint for living a very human experience. And so in a sense, you could say that the 8 extras are responsible. Their regulation, their mediation is responsible for our ability or our capacity to stay on track in our curriculum, to move through the lessons with more fluidity, with more grace, with more ease, with more consciousness, with more awareness. Human beings spend most of their lives in a state that is lacking in consciousness. This is in some ways necessary. If we were to be conscious 100% of the time, life would probably be a lot more overwhelming than it already is. And a lack of consciousness serves us in terms of survival. It suits the part of the brain, the back of the brain, the brainstem that is in charge of survival. So if we look at what all the teachers who teach mindfulness and meditation and spiritual growth and awareness are all saying, they're saying mostly the same thing, that human beings spend about 95% of their life unconscious. 95%. And there are reasons for that. Some of those reasons are very powerful. Some of them are useful. Some of them are good. But if you can improve the state of your consciousness by just 2 or 3%, if you were 2 or 3% more conscious than you currently are, the quality of your life and your health and your well-being would improve dramatically. We need the lack of consciousness because as long as we're unconscious, our actions are habituated, they're regulated, they're predictable. And this habituation is very good for survival. That part of your brain that is in charge of survival likes to know exactly what is going to happen, when it's going to happen, and how it's going to happen. It doesn't like change. It doesn't like new stuff. And when it comes upon something new, it freezes you in your tracks and makes you stop to really think about whether it's a good idea to proceed or not. And so this unconsciousness serves us in terms of survival, but it's really not great for thriving. This lack of consciousness is not great for a sense of well-being, a sense of wholeness, a sense of oneness, a sense of unity, a sense of meaning and purpose in life. So in order to survive, we have to do a little bit of a dance. We have to become less habituated and more aware. And that is because it's only in the awareness that we have choice. As long as we're living our lives from a habituated state, we have no choice. We are at the mercy of survival. So this is about having the choice to learn from the experiences you're having and become more aware of who you are and who you're meant to be, to come into this state of beingness that is associated with your original nature.